It's not that other people weren't doing this. I mean, I think notably Anthropic was doing this with its operator product, but the basic idea is that you've got this two-pane view, and in one window, you've got the standard chatbot interface, and then in the other view, you can see what the agent is doing. And that agent has the ability to toggle between currently 4 apps. There's search, browser, code terminal, and document editor. And so when you give Manus a task, the first thing it does is create a to-do list in the document editor. You can kind of see it there. And then it works sequentially to achieve each of those tasks and then puts an X on them there. And you can kind of see it working. And I think what's cool about the demo is just the way that it seamlessly toggles between those 4 apps. And you can see what the AI agent is doing, and it's browsing the internet, it's searching for things, it's writing documents, it's crossing things off its to-do list. Now, I think it's pretty easy to imagine where this goes, which is you'll be able to connect an agent to all of your SaaS apps. So it won't just be 4 applications. It'll now be connected to dozens of applications, including ones that already have your data. And it's going to know what actions it's possible to take in those apps. So when it creates its to-do list, there's a much wider range of things that it can accomplish. And in fact, there's a new standard called MCP, which is taking off like wildfire, which is built specifically to enable agents to connect with applications and understand the data and understand the actions that are possible in those SaaS applications. So look, Manus is just the tip of the iceberg here. I think this will become a very standard UI paradigm. That's the reason why I mention it, not because I am pre-declaring them to be the winner in the space, but just because I think there's a lot of talk about agents, and I think it's hard to conceptualize what that means without just seeing it visually.
Great summary there, Sachs. And Aaron, I want to get your thoughts on it because obviously you're running Box and you have your finger on the pulse of this. We actually started building one of these in our venture firm. We have 20,000 applications a year, and we have updates coming in from investments. We are now taking those, Sachs, Aaron, and we are having an agent sort them and then look for competitors and compare them to the last update. And we're looking into our Notion, our Coda, and saying, what other communications have we had? What questions should we ask about the startup and about their strategy? And then we're presenting that in Slack to our team. So this is coming fast and furious. And we spend, I don't know, probably 15 minutes on each of those incoming applications. You start doing the math on that. Talk about 5,000 hours of work. Aaron, what are you seeing on the street? What are you doing at Box in terms of agents landing right now in Q2 of 2025?
Yeah, I mean, I think Sachs represented it well, which is you have to now think about AI as effectively being able to do anything on a computer or another piece of software as a human can do. And the little distraction that I think happened 2 years ago after the ChatGPT moment was we sort of thought about that as, we're just going to now do like typing information retrieval. And that's a new paradigm for user interfaces, let's say. So you just like talk to your software and you like search Zillow via chat. That was sort of a little bit of a distraction. That's super helpful, like when you want basic information, lookup or whatnot. The big breakthrough is starting to think through these things as full, effectively, agentic systems that operate on any amount of data, any amount of tools for as long as you want to complete any task that you want. And this is sort of the big year where agents are starting to, enter the vocabulary of enterprises, of IT people, of larger and certainly small organizations, and it kind of requires you to have a little bit of a reset moment on how you think about AI, which is it's not just now a kind of a co-pilot that you talk back and forth with. It's actually something running behind the scenes that's now actually starting to deliver real automated kind of work for you. And so lots of implications, like massive implications to what the software business model is in the future. I would argue strongly that it's a massive TAM increase because now software starts to go after labor spend. It completely changes the dynamics of then how do you build a moat in a world of AI agents? But I think
unpack that piece there, Aaron. You said something very interesting. How software then is going to go over human spend.
Yes.
Explain that concept. Unpack it for a second,
David. And I, we go back way back in SaaS land, but like you used to basically just, you built a piece of software and you sell it for the number of people in the organization. And so, company has 500 employees and you sell that thing for, let's say $10, a user a month, $120 a year, and you make $60,000. And that's kind of the business model. Now, when your software actually brings the underlying workflow to the customer or the underlying outcome to the customer. So, that company might have 10 lawyers. And so previously, if you were selling software for lawyers, you had a maximum amount of 10 seats that you could sell. Now, all of a sudden, if your AI agents are doing the equivalent of, let's say, paralegal work or some form of professional services, all of a sudden you might be able to sell a multiple of the initial kind of 10 seats that you would have sold previously.
So you see it as a huge opportunity because now you're not enabling a human to be 5% more productive. You're replacing a human, or you're replacing 1 out of 10.
Yeah, and actually, I'm going to do an underscore on this point though. I don't like the word replace, because I think actually most of the upside is actually going to be for companies that now deploy labor at things that they wouldn't have deployed labor at before.
Got it.
And maybe I'm biased from the view we have, but most of our conversations with customers are when they have AI agents, they can actually now go and actually deliver work in areas that would have been unaffordable previously. So they weren't doing the work.
This is 100% true in logistics. So like we're making thousands of phone calls a day using AI, calling truck drivers. And if we have a load, we've got 400,000 truck drivers using the mobile app, the Flexport mobile app. I don't have enough loads to keep them all checking it every day to see if there's a load that matches them. And if they don't check it, they're useless to me. Now, and it was too expensive to call the truck driver and have a human call and talk to them, even if it's a human in a call center in the Philippines. Whereas with AI, it's almost free. I'm calling thousands of them a day going, hey, this load looks like it's a good match for you. Are you interested? And then we activate them on the platform. That's new work that wasn't going to happen before, not just a replacement.
Yeah, I think like we have, in the Valley, unfortunately, we've been co-opted a little bit somewhat with a little bit of a doomer, mindset in some areas. And we think of then AI as, okay, like it's all fixed pie, it's going to replace things. And on the ground with large enterprises, the vast majority of the use cases are it's the ability to finally review the contracts that we never got around to reviewing. It's the ability to finally automate an invoice process that we never did. It's the ability to go in and just create marketing campaigns in every language that we never got around to. And so I think that'll probably be actually like 90% of the usage of AI in the future will be things that if we look back and we snap the line right now, we said, this is what knowledge work is today. 90% of AI usage will be things that we don't do today. 10% will replace, what we're doing in some areas.
I think that's the right take, because Chamath, I can tell you in our firm, we would never have associates or researchers or analysts. Sachs, you also were in this line of work as well, venture capital. You'd never have them review legal documents. That's something lawyers would do in the legal department. But now, because of AI, we have them say, here's the safe, here's the term sheet, here's the edited version, dump it all in, find out what the changes are, what are the deltas here, and then let's have a discussion about what the founder changed in a standard document. And we don't have to bother with an attorney, and maybe you wouldn't have even checked those documents if you were, a seed fund or an angel fund. You would just go along for the ride because you're the 10th person signing the document. So what do you think, Chamath, here in terms of the premise that maybe it's 10% replacing work that's happening, but this is blue ocean and we're going to do 90% of like new stuff that we just never got to?
Yeah, I tend to believe that's true. I think the customers that we sell into at 8090 are largely large enterprises as well, so not dissimilar to Aaron's customer base. What I would say is that what they are encountering is the trough of disillusionment. And I don't know if, Aaron, you're seeing this as well, but every single, CIO ran around signing up some sort of AI product, in large part because their CEO would say to them, hey, what's your AI strategy? And the reason the CEO asked them that is that at some point, somebody on the board said, what are we doing about AI? So that's the bullshit cascade that we went through in the last 2 years. And I think what has happened now is people have spent billions and billions of dollars. I think you can see it in the revenue traction of the AI companies. But I think where we are today is that there are some real technical complexities that have not been solved. I'll give you an example. We have a lot of customers in regulated industries, which is to say that if you make a mistake, you will get fined or you will get shut down. Life sciences, healthcare, financial services are 3 examples. People still don't seem to appreciate that when you replace software that is deterministic with software that is probabilistic, meaning software that somebody wrote for you, do A, then do B, then do C, with an LLM that can hallucinate you'll have errors. So what used to be a throwaway thing, which is quality assurance and QA, right? Unit testing, integration testing, is now the only thing that matters. Why? Because if you're a financial services institution and you're supposed to do KYC and hit Borks, and now all of a sudden you send a wire somewhere in Syria, guess what? You're in trouble.
No bueno. Yeah.
If you're a healthcare company and you're supposed to do some clinical diagnosis to send out a drug on time, and you don't do that because the model hallucinates, that's a real problem. And I'm guaranteeing you, we have not seen the class action lawsuits that will come when those errors will eventually be made. They're guaranteed to be made. We just don't know the scope and the scale of them. So that's why I'm sort of this posture where I think we've sold in a ton of promise. I think the reality is much more tactical. It's a little bit more banal. I think we're sorting through the exact use cases where you can put guardrails around these error rates where it's okay and tolerable. Like Ryan will probably tell you, there's some number of phone calls that just sound totally fakaked, but he's okay with that because the broader thing is okay. And Aaron will probably... So I don't know. So
I won't let it talk to my customers though. I have it calling truck drivers to offer them loads, but I'm not having to talk to my customer.
Sorry, I meant your truck drivers. But my point just is that I think agents are real, but I think that we are far away from that because we're still at the phase of how do you build reliable software in production for an enterprise versus the toy apps that you see on the internet, which is like, let me vibe code something. I think these things are worlds apart still.
Okay, so let me get Saxon on here. And just to inform the audience, you heard trial of disillusionment. This comes from the hype cycle. This is something Gartner has been talked about for a long time. So in case you're taking it for granted, and if you're watching, you have some sort of technology trigger like agents. You have this like peak of inflated expectations. Now we're in the trial of disillusionment. Hey, this stuff doesn't work. It's hallucinating. But we're kind of going up that slope.
No, it works. It just doesn't work.
It doesn't say we're on the slope of enlightenment, I think.
I don't see the disillusionment. I don't know where this is coming from. I don't even think we're at the peak yet.
Oh, okay. So you think we're still going up? Because a lot of people, to Chamath's point, were buying stuff and saying, "Hey, it doesn't work," and now we're in the messy middle.
Let me say it differently, Sax. I think we have not yet figured out how to move the budgets from experimentation to mainline production, meaning where large chunks of the U.S. economy are comfortable enough with the ways in which hallucinations are managed, such that they will replace legacy deterministic code with this new probabilistic model generated code, meaning model enabled code. Let's just